Hello, ladies, and potentially gents as well. Welcome back to the Lily Kathleen podcast, the place where we dive deep into fitness, health, and everything that actually makes a difference to not just your body, but your mind as well. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Lily. My middle name is actually Kathleen. So some people call me Kathleen, which is really funny, and always get like, oh, who's Kathleen? Oh yeah, that's me. So first name's Lily, middle name's Kathleen, and I joined the two together because I think it sounds nice. I am a former ballerina, personal trainer, and biomedical science student turned online coach and podcast host as well. So that's a very long description of who I am, but that is what I have done to date and what I do to date. I've helped hundreds of women transform their bodies, and I'm here to help you do the same for free, of course. So make sure you hit that follow button if you are listening on Spotify, or subscribe button if you are watching on YouTube, so you never miss an episode. I want to mention now, because I just said for free, of course, because this is all for free. And this is one of the reasons I started the podcast, right? I'm not like making any money off it. I just want to provide more education, particularly science-backed education, which is like obviously science-backed, about a lot of things to do with health, because the fitness industry particularly, which I've worked in for so many years, can't even count, it's not all scientifically backed. Some of it is BS, and it's conflicting information. It's like, oh, that person says that's true, the other person says it's not true, so what's true? And then nonetheless, a lot of people, and I know this because clients have told me this, they're like, well, then what works for me? What do I not only believe, but what do I actually apply? What do I not do? So, that's the whole point of this podcast. And it's not just about body transformation, of course. It's about your hormonal health and also mental health as well. Mental health is very important to me, but also shifting your consciousness, shifting your mindset. Oh my goodness, before I get off track, let's just keep going. But I have so many exciting more podcasts to come. So again, if you are watching on YouTube, drop that subscribe button to support the channel. And if you're watching on Spotify, hit that follow button to support the channel on Spotify. So today we're talking about something very relatable, which is period bloating, but what it actually is the bloating that you experience before your period, okay? Because we've all been there. Like one day your jeans fit perfectly, and the next you feel like a balloon, and like the button of your jeans is pressing on your belly or something. Like I've been there as well. It's frustrating, it's uncomfortable, and whilst it's quote unquote like natural, sometimes the extent of bloating that women experience, it's like, there's no way this is natural. Like this isn't right, something's wrong. And the good news is there's a lot that we can do to reduce the bloating. What I want to run through though is firstly, why does this happen? And more importantly, how do we fix it? Being there myself, especially after studying biomedical science and working as a personal trainer and of course coaching hundreds and hundreds of women, I know firsthand what it feels like standing on the gym floor, feeling so bloated in tight activewear. And whilst you should love and appreciate that phase of your body, I understand that some bloating can be extreme and sometimes you really don't feel comfortable. But the good news is that there are real solutions that actually work. And this is all science-backed, so it isn't BS. All right, so let's break it down. Firstly, why do women actually bloat before their period? Now let's look at the 4 phases. You have your menstrual phase, follicular phase, ovulatory phase, and your luteal phase. Your luteal phase is the phase or the season per se that you experience and you go through before you bleed, before your period, which more often than not is when women experience the most bloating. In fact, I actually made a YouTube Shorts and TikTok video asking if women wanted to know why they bloated and how to fix it before their period, and so many people commented yes. It actually got so many views. So firstly, hormonal changes and water retention. When I talk about hormonal changes, it's not that something's wrong with you, it's just the fact that our hormonal levels in our bodies as women change in order to go through these different cycles, okay? Now, because your your hormonal levels shift and change, right before your period, there are two hormones that we can focus on to make it really simple to understand: progesterone and estrogen. Okay, so progesterone drops and therefore estrogen fluctuates, meaning it like goes up and down, and it's quite the shift. And these two hormones, because of the changes that they undergo, it causes the body to hold on to more water and sodium. So sodium chemically is called Na+, but sodium is also what you find in salt. Okay? When our body chooses to hold on to more salt, it's also going to hold on to more water, because salt kind of like not necessarily attracts water, but it holds on to it, and it's very absorbent to water, which is why when you put salt in a glass of water, it like dissolves really easily, right? And this causes bloating, okay? And it's totally normal, and it feels frustrating, but that's one reason why you bloat, okay? There are other reasons, but that is like the most normal, expected one as a woman. The second one is your digestion slows down. So your digestion is your body's ability to eat food, break it down, drink stuff, and break down whatever's in the drink into different things and use it for energy, right? So your digestion slows down because your progesterone causes the digestion to slow down. Before I mentioned the two hormones, progesterone dropping, because the progesterone drops, your digestion slows down. This means that food just simply moves more slowly throughout your digestive tract, etc. And because it's going more slowly, there's more gas potentially, and there's more bloating. All right. And you might feel like you're a little bit backed up down there, or just feel heavier. And this is why a certain change to diet and implementing a few strategies can really help with that, and therefore reduce the bloating. Number 3, why we bloat before our period as women, is an increase in inflammation. So in another podcast episode, I talked about the word prostaglandins, which is a hormone which causes contractions in the uterus and like that cramping feeling. That hormone is really high during your luteal phase, the phase before your period, and therefore the inflammation in the gut is higher, which also causes bloating. Okay, so some women even get IBS-like symptoms due to this prostaglandin hormone, doing its thing. Now, the fourth reason, which a lot of women don't know about, is a change in bacteria, in the gut bacteria, which of course, if you think about it, your gut bacteria, most people within the health and fitness space have heard those two words. This is linked to your digestive system. There's bacteria in your gut to help you break down food, etc. So, if your digestive tract slows down, which we've already mentioned, this causes the bacteria in your gut to change. The balance of gut bacteria shifts, okay, throughout different cycles, and this can make some women extra sensitive to certain foods before their period. I know personally I'm quite sensitive towards, particular foods. And now I don't really want to list off those foods because everyone's a little bit different. But good news is we're going to run through now how to reduce period bloating and what actually works, all right? So let's talk about the real solutions. If you're feeling tired or like a bloated mess before your period, this is what to do. Take some notes, get out a notebook, or, save this podcast episode or like it, or I don't know, whatever you have to do to make sure that you have these pointers with you. And I want to reiterate that these are not Band-Aid solutions, okay? They are real fixes. These are science-backed, and they are real strategies to support your hormones. Okay, because the main thing that causes all this bloating is a change in those hormones like we mentioned in the beginning. Electrolytes, okay? So balance your electrolytes, ditch the salt trap. Now, if you don't know what that means, don't worry, I'm about to dig into it. Hormonal shifts, okay? Remember, estrogen and progesterone fluctuate. These cause your body to hold on to more water like we mentioned in the beginning. Now, what helps with this though? and increase in potassium and magnesium. Think bananas, avocados, dark leafy greens, and coconut water. I personally love avocado and coconut water during this phase of my cycle. Like, my body actually craves it. And it's very interesting when you start to implement all these things of cycle syncing, one of which is food, your body starts to kind of like tell you what it needs, and you don't need to think about it so much. Secondly is adding electrolytes without artificial sweeteners, or sip on some coconut water for natural balance. Now, this might sound a little bit contradicting because those who know that electrolytes do contain salt. And you're like, Lily, oh my goodness, salt attracts water, it's going to make me look puffy or whatever. No, okay. Firstly, there's different types of salt. And secondly, salt helps you hydrate. If you're not getting salt from those salty processed foods or salty processed chips, and instead you're getting it from a natural source like coconut water or a very natural electrolyte supplement, then that's going to benefit you, okay? Another one is dandelion tea. So dandelion tea is actually a natural diuretic, which can help flush out excess water as well. I love some dandelion root tea. Now, as I said before, avoid the salt that's in processed foods. And you know what's also interesting? In processed foods, there's also usually like a high processed sugar content, right? And we talked about in another episode that processed sugar doesn't help with the premenstrual symptoms, and it doesn't help experience a pleasant period. Another thing to avoid is too much caffeine. So caffeine dehydrates your body, if you don't know that already. And it also does stress your body because it's caffeine. It increases your alertness in your brain, but it also, in doing so, overstimulates your nervous system. And I think women collectively, right before their period, they do experience like fatigue and lower energy levels, which is normal. But then they rely on caffeine more and make their symptoms worse. Okay? So really be mindful of your caffeine intake before your period for those two reasons. Number 2, what's another thing you can do to reduce the pre-period bloating? Cycle syncing your diet. Okay, now we can get into this in a whole much more greater detail. But remember, we are referencing all of this to the phase right before you bleed, which is your luteal phase. So if you guys track your period, and if you don't do so already or don't track your cycle, I really encourage you do, because then you know when you're in your luteal phase and you know when to implement these things. Alyssa Vitti, I do want to give some credentials here. Alyssa Vitti, the founder of Flow Living, who is a nutritionist. She teaches that supporting each phase of your cycle with the right foods and nutrients helps balance hormones naturally. So your luteal phase, again, is a week before your period. I know I keep saying it, it's just so many people don't even know this stuff, and it's important I repeat it so that it starts to be ingrained in people's brains. Week before your period equals high bloat time, okay? You want to focus on magnesium-rich foods like spinach, pumpkin seeds, and dark chocolate, alongside cruciferous vegetables, things like broccoli, kale, to help detox excess estrogen, which contributes to bloating. Should lower my camera a little bit. I'm now looking. Maybe I should just sit a bit taller. Moving on. Healthy fats. So olive oil, walnuts, salmon. These really help reduce your inflammation. And remember, the bloating is also an inflammatory response. Also, as I said in another podcast episode, cut back on the sugar. And I haven't really mentioned this too much, but cut back on the sugar and the dairy as well, okay? Sugar and dairy are both going to increase your inflammation, okay? The best way to think about it is like certain foods reduce the bloating and certain foods will increase the bloating, okay? Dairy increases bloating. It's not an anti-inflammatory. Sugar increases the bloating. It's not an anti-inflammatory. I mean the processed sugar, okay? Not the sugar you find in fruit and things like that. Processed sugar. Lollies, chips, ice cream, that kind of stuff, okay? It really doesn't help. And if you're more interested in the sugar sides of things, I will link the episode where we talk about blood sugar levels and that effect on premenstrual symptoms in the description. And if you're watching on YouTube, I will link it at this time slot. Herbs and drinks, okay? So it's not just about the food. We can also look at what we drink, what we sip on, and the herbal benefits. When I talk about herbs, I really encourage them to be organic. Nonetheless, ginger tea, so that helps soothe digestion and reduces inflammation. Peppermint tea relieves bloating and gas. So I actually have a peppermint tea. You can't see it with the camera. It's peppermint and licorice. I'm in my luteal phase at the moment. I think my period's going to be here in like around 3 days. Fennel tea helps with bloating, digestion, and gut health. And chamomile tea, which reduces cortisol. And remember, cortisol is your stress hormone. So if you've got lowered your cortisol levels, there won't be as high of an inflammatory response, and it also helps calm down your digestion. Speaking of digestion, your gut bacteria shifts throughout your cycle, which we mentioned before. And pre-period bloating is often due to an imbalance in this, an imbalance in bacteria, okay? So the third thing you can do is to support your digestion and your gut health more so than in your other phases. Like, be more conscious about it and make smarter choices, okay? Remember, bacteria are, I remember looking at them under the microscope at university. They are like little microorganisms, okay? Imagine like cells with like feet all around them and shit like that. Excuse my language. They move around a lot, okay? And there's good bacteria and there's also bad bacteria. And there's also a lot of different just species of bacteria in your gut. So it's a very complex thing to kind of understand, but I'm going to break it down for you very simply as to how you can support it. 3 things. What helps? Probiotic foods, things like yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, and then we've got prebiotic foods as well. Asparagus, garlic, onions, these feed good gut bacteria, okay? I've always noticed whenever I had sauerkraut or kimchi, it was like a gut detox. It was crazy. What to avoid? Artificial sweeteners, since they disrupt your gut bacteria and make bloating worse. So even though like a Coke Zero or Pepsi Max has like basically no calories in it, it doesn't help your gut bacteria, okay? Along with carbonated drinks, they trap gas and cause bloating. So think about like, I don't know what it's called, but like carbonated water, what's that called? Like sparkling water or something. Anything that's like carbonated and fizzy, even if it doesn't have any calories in it, it's still not helpful. Number 4, keep moving even when you don't feel like it. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying go and do HIIT workouts and run 20 kilometers. What I'm saying is that your luteal phase workouts should be different. Instead of high-intensity workouts that spike your cortisol, which increase bloating. Remember, cortisol is your stress hormone, so if cortisol is up, your bloating is going to increase. Try walking, yoga, Pilates, strength training, maybe. Depends how you feel, of course. But if you are going to do lower reps, have longer rest periods, and, don't try and hit any personal bests or anything. Now, here's a little bit of like a personal experience I've had with this, because obviously I've trained for all of my life, really. I mean, there's been phases where I haven't trained because of my ankle surgeries, but I used to push myself. So as an ex-ballerina, I used to push myself through HIIT workouts before my period or really tough strength sessions, and I would always end up more bloated and more likely have a pretty terrible period. So now, as someone who's not only a lot older and more mature, but someone who's so much more in tune with their body and what it needs and what it's asking for, it's crazy when you start to implement all this stuff, how much you like not only listen to your body, but you can like almost hear what it's telling you. Just like the avocado and, what was the other thing? Like, I forgot what it was. But like, yeah, in my luteal phase, that my body will tell me that I need avocado. It's crazy. Now I'll do a gentle Pilates session. If my foot was okay, I would walk, but it's obviously not. Or I'll do like a yoga session at home and some yin yoga or something. And I just feel so much lighter, and I don't have like this mental battle inside my mind where it's like, you're being lazy, you're not trying hard enough, you'll lose your progress, you'll lose your muscle. My goodness, like your body's getting old. Why aren't you training as hard as you used to? And it's really not like that. It's actually the opposite of speaking so much more kinder and warming to myself through my thoughts. And also recognizing that in doing so, like the little bit of rest that I give my body is actually going to help, the muscle mass growth. Your muscle grows when it rests, okay? Obviously, you have to stimulate it by training, but it actually grows when it rests. And I can assure you right now, my body, in terms of muscle mass, progressed so much faster when I trained 5 days a week instead of 7, right? And I'm not afraid to be kind to my body. I'm really, really not. So that's that. Number 5 is to reduce cortisol and prioritize your sleep. Easier said than done, I know. But just hear me out here. When you're stressed, your body holds onto water and it slows down its digestion. What the fuck? Yeah, I know. Stress. Mentally stressed, physically stressed, cortisol goes up. Cortisol is your stress hormone. Therefore, your body holds onto water and it slows down its digestion. My whole life, when clients ask, what can I do to recover optimally from my workouts, and I could give them 50 million different things I could do, I said, think about the number one thing that reduces fatigue: sleep. Not just the hours, but more so the quality of your sleep. Quality of your sleep is the best thing you can do for your body, and also to reduce cortisol levels, because your nervous system actually gets a chance to relax and rejuvenate. Now, when we look at sleep, it's like, well, how do I help my sleep? Especially if you know you're not really getting optimal quality sleep, or you're just someone who already prioritizes their sleep and they're like, how can I advance this anymore? Deep breathing or meditation. Now, not necessarily before bed. Of course, you can do it before bed. What I'm talking about is reducing your cortisol levels. A lot of people know if they meditate, that's probably going to relieve some sort of stress for them, right? But I think the issue with meditation, and not to get too off track, is it takes a while to treat the benefits of meditation if you haven't done it before. I remember for a year and a half, I'd sit and try and listen to my breath for 5 minutes as a ballerina, and it was not calming, it was not relaxing, it was not rejuvenating. I couldn't even sit down for 5 minutes. But very quickly I realized, if I cannot sit down for 5 minutes and just focus on my breath, then this is something I should keep doing so that I can do that eventually and I can treat the benefits. And with practice, deep breathing and meditation really does reduce your stress. Magnesium before bed, which calms your nervous system. We recently got this magnesium, which is oh my god, it's black and it smells so bad, but it's so good. Often with supplements, when they smell bad, they're really good quality. Another one is ashwagandha tea, or ashwagandha in a supplement form, of course, or holy basil tea. Both of these, basil tea, holy basil, depends where you come from, same thing. They both help balance your cortisol and reduce water retention. Now, what do you avoid? Because, of course, there are things that increase your cortisol or disturb your sleep quality. Late night snacking. Particularly during our luteal phase, we are more inclined towards sugar. We want some nighttime ice cream or whatever. But if you snack too much and you eat a little bit too much right before bedtime, firstly, when you sleep, your body should be sleeping. It should not be digesting. So many people eat dinner and then go to bed straight after, which means for about 2 to 4 hours of whilst you're sleeping, your body's digesting food instead of sleeping, or sleeping with quality. So try and have dinner a little bit earlier and really just stop the late night snacking. It's not necessary. If you don't eat enough during the day and that's why you're late night snacking, then eat more snacks during the day. If, it's pretty simple to overcome. If you have emotional eating habits of late night snacking, well, then you can listen to a lot of my other videos, or, change around your diet and make sure you're eating balanced meals throughout the day that are satiating. Another one is blue light. We all know this. Screen time, phone time, TV time, that light that those electronic devices emit messes with melatonin, which is your hormone that's naturally released in your brain for you to fall asleep, stay asleep, and go through different stages of sleep. Now, I want to talk a little bit right now about my personal story here and how I finally fixed my period bloating. Because I used to think that it was just something I had to deal with. But cycle syncing changed everything for me. It really did. And I remember one month I was so bloated, I thought I gained like 2 or 5 kilos overnight. Like, it was ridiculous. But then I started tracking my cycle, firstly, adjusting my food, adjusting my nutrients, adjusting hydration and things like that, stress management, etc. And I didn't just notice a shift, I noticed a huge shift. And as I said before, a huge shift in awareness. We're not taught this stuff at school. Likelihood is your doctor isn't really teaching you this either. The week before my period, what I personally prioritize is magnesium, dandelion root tea. I cut back on the high intensity workouts, and I focus on gut-friendly foods. I don't feel like a bloated mess anymore, and I really want that for you too. Now, they're the things that I do because over time I've become more in tune with my body. But like, if you're just starting and you feel a little bit overwhelmed with like all the things you could do, just focus on like one thing you could do for sleep, for example, one thing you can do from food, one thing you can do from drinks, etc. And save this episode, make sure you follow, and therefore you have it and you can go back to it and listen over it when it comes your luteal phase to kind of like prepare, right? And I trust you that the more you do it, the less overwhelming it is, and it's actually really, really simple. It's just at first when you hear all this information, it's like, oh my goodness. But in a way, it's a good thing that we have all this information because, well, people don't really talk about it. Now, to wrap it up here, if you found this episode helpful, make sure you hit subscribe on YouTube or follow on Spotify, on whatever platform you're listening to right now, so you never miss another episode, because there's so many more exciting ones coming. And if you loved today's tips, take a screenshot, share it to your Instagram stories, and tag me at the Lily Kathleen podcast. I'd love to hear what resonated with you the most. And also, if you have any questions or topics you want me to cover in future episodes, just shoot me a DM or leave me a review. And I read every single one. You could even comment on the YouTube video, like wherever, doesn't really matter. I read every single one, and I really love your feedback because it helps this podcast grow and reach more women just like you and help more women as well. So thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next episode.